Another installment of our weekly COVID-19 JKA Karate Kata seminars. Today's Kata is Sochin, and Sochin is variously translated as peaceful strength or strength and calm. And so when you perform the kata, you have to convey these feelings. So you have to show a lot of great power and also a lot of composure when you do this kata. The power especially on the fast movements and the composure on the very slow movements. Sochin is one of the older katas in our repertoire. However, the modern rendition of it is fairly recent. The story goes that sometime in the 1930s, Gigo Funakoshi, Sensei Funakoshi's son, went to study with Kenwa Mabuni, the founder of Shito Ryu, and he brought back 3 kata with him: Sochin, Nijushiho, and Unsu. Then these kata got greatly revised to suit our style of karate. For example, in the Okinawan schools, a lot of the versions in what their version of Sochin has a lot of cat stance in it, and hardly any of Fudo-dachi, the rooted stance, which is the whole characteristic of our Sochin. So, if you say, how old is the kata? I would say, not very old, since the 30s, because it got so greatly changed that the version of Sochin that's done now, and the version that's most popular in the whole world, is the one that we do. So Sochin it's characterized by so many of the movements using the Fudo-dachi, which is kind of a hybrid front stance, Kibidachi stance. Fudo-dachi means rooted stance, and the word Sochin got attributed to the stance simply because of this kata, that the stance was used so much in the kata that Fudo-dachi and Sochin-dachi became almost synonymous. Difference is that Fudo-dachi and a lot of our other advanced katas are usually a lot more narrow than Sochin stance. Enough on the history. Let's talk about the stance before I start the kata. Sochin is, when I learned the stance, the way it was taught to me, we're told to make front stance with 60% of your weight on the front knee, turn the front foot in 45 degrees, and bend the back leg. Okay? So that the weight distribution is similar to front stance. But now, most people do this stance somewhere near center or slightly ahead of center with the weight distribution. Okay? And the only one instructor explained to me why that might be. And he said, well, it's too hard on the knees this way. Okay? And I can relate to that. So anyway, Sochin-dachi is center or slightly ahead of center, the modern version. So for beginners, it's probably better, they'll get a better idea of the stance now, to start them with Kibidachi stance, have them look 45 degrees and turn both their feet so they angle 45 degrees, and then Sochin stance. Kibidachi, Sochin stance. Okay. It's very important. Most people do Sochin stance a little bit similar to front stance or slightly wider. In the old days, they did the stance really wide, but it's important that you don't go too wide for 2 reasons. Whether it's front stance or Sochin stance, when you move forward in a wide stance, you'll find yourself not going in a straight line. You're kind of snaking your way forward. So you've got to be able to find that position for your hip, that when you advance the stance, that your body moves straight forward. Second important reason for either front stance or Sochin stance, if you are too wide, the stance starts to become weaker in these 2 directions. either stance. And Sochin stance is supposed to be rooted stance, meaning it is strong in every direction. And there's only one other stance that's like that to this extent, in my opinion, that is Hangetsu stance. When we did Hangetsu, I made the point that I really believe that people will not fully understand front stance until they practice the Hangetsu Kata and the Sochin Kata, both for a long time. Because one is emphasizing inward power, and one is emphasizing outward power. Okay? Usually in our stances, if our stance is longer, like Kiberachi front stance, we will use outward power with the knees. If the stance is shorter, we're usually squeezing in with the knees. But front stance, it is our most dynamic stance, again in my opinion, because it has such a great range of where the hip can be. Okay? And it becomes a very different stance. When the hip is open, we're pressing outside a lot, to a great extent. When we close the hip in front stance, we're squeezing our thighs on the inside. So it becomes a lot of inside pressure. So you have to understand the dynamics of outside-inside pressure. Beyond that, no stance has just pressure outside or just pressure inside. There's dynamic tension that holds the stance in place. Sochin is so difficult. So many people don't, when they step forward, the back foot will flail out so that the outside edges of the feet are no longer parallel. That being the case, you can't get a high score with Sochin in a tournament if your stance is, if your feet are not parallel. Same with if you're trying to do Kiberachi for your brown belt test. If your feet are splayed out, you're gonna have a hard time passing that exam as well. So what happens is people step forward and this back foot turns outward a little bit, not as much as I'm doing, and what keeps it in is this inside tension, is what pulls it into the correct position as you move. So you're pushing out, but also squeezing in. And this makes it difficult to master this stance. Okay, let's do the kata, half speed together. I don't really have room here to do the whole kata. It's kind of wide. So I'm going to have to adjust my position, but okay. Ready? Sochin! Yoi. Each. Ni. San, shi, go. Look. Shi. Touch, go. Each. Ni. San. Chi, go. Each. Ni, san. Chi, go, look. Each. Ni, san. Chi, go. Each. Ni, san. Chi, go. Each. Ni, san. Chi, go. Look. Each. Ni, san. Chi, go. Kiai. And first kiai is here. Okay. So, Sochin is a real workout kata. You do a few of these in a row, and you'll feel the leg burn. So it's good to practice it just for that reason, to develop the legs. First movement. First movement in the kata is repeated several times in the kata. This is really the signature move. And if you don't get it right, you immediately unimpressed. So from here, I'll talk from the top down, start with the arms. The right arm, regular rising block, make sure that your wrist is in the middle of your forehead and not over to the side somewhere. And like all the blocks, make sure your fist is straight, not bent downward, that your wrist is straight. Okay. Then this one, you just bring your arm up relaxed, but the important thing is the elbow must come straight down. So you don't want to bring it, some people come to the back a little and that doesn't make any sense, it's just extra motion. You definitely don't want to come out to the side at all. You don't want it to come around. You want arm go straight up, relax naturally, don't lock the elbow. And then to here, using gravity. This is called Geidan Uke, just down block, as opposed to Geidan Barai, which is sweeping block. Okay. The impact is not at a right angle as this block in Jion is. But Jion is mostly for blocking a bow or a fist. This one more typically for blocking a front kick. And if the front kick's coming out, bang, you do not want to come straight down on a shin that's arcing upward with your forearm bone. Okay, otherwise the bigger bone will win, yours will lose. So you come down at a slight angle, and the kick will, if you hit the shin, the kick will slide off your arm. But think of it as also slicing inside the thigh. This kind of inside feeling. Most people do this so weird, oddly and contrived by making their wrist bend and kind of like tensing on the inside, kind of trying to make their arm into a C or something, the letter C. But it's much more simple than that. If you take any stance like front stance, your regular down block, the block will knock the weapon slightly to the side, no more than that far. So you've got to come cross center and come to there. Unless your stance is extremely narrow, in both front stance and Sochin stance, down block will be inside the front knee. It's not over the knee, inside. Here's the center line. You block slightly beyond the center line. You don't block way out here. That's too much. That's too far, and it's leaving you too open in the middle. So Sochin goes like this, from down block, and just do that. And so you're tensing more here. Don't bend the wrist and tense your bicep muscle. Okay? Keep your wrist straight. Down block. I'm sorry. Geidan Barai. Geidan Uke. The Sochin block. This block has so many uses. You can block a kick with it safely, but also in Kumite, this block is used all the time. Somebody's coming reverse punch, you block, and strike at the same time. Okay? And of course, you don't want to come straight across his arm. You want to deviate a little bit to the outside for that one. So it's used in Kumite all the time, this block. Okay. So, now the stance. From here, especially, don't lift your arm up first. Okay? You've got to start moving into the stance. So as you lift your arm up, your left knee goes down. Your weight goes down. Okay? Same time. Everything starts at the same time. So this is the in-breath. All your weight on the back leg. and slowly transfer your weight and block outward. The more you can bend the supporting leg before you start forward, the better control you're going to have to decelerate that move, correct, and make it look really impressive, and be really impressive. Beyond that, we're trying to make a block to a kick coming in. Whenever we go from standing up to making a long stance, we don't typically go like that to get there. We go like this, like in an arc. So we lower our center of gravity and then move straight in. So it's no different. Lower your center of gravity and move straight in to the opponent. Okay? This is a beginner style of the first move in Sochin. Whenever you see somebody do that, it's like, oh, that's so weird that they would finish the stance and then keep making it go lower and lower. So it should already be all the way down. You're moving in, not down, in to this stance. Didn't talk about bunkai. The first move, the standard bunkai. Remember, this is a rising block, and this is a down block. The standard bunkai, it doesn't necessarily have to be simultaneous. So this can mean opponents kicking to chudan and then punching, reverse punch maybe to jodan. And you can easily pam pam from a rooted stance, make those slightly asynchronous in application. Or they're punching to jodan and then kicking, or they're punching to jodan and then punching to stomach, and you block with this. It can also mean that the opponent is coming in like reverse punch. I'm going to do a mirror image to jodan. So their coming in leg is on this side, right? You block the reverse punch, and I can do it to myself. You hit inside their leg of their stance, this way. So it can be strike. Second move. Again, don't make a front foot adjustment. Okay, just go. This one, very naturally come to the armpit. You don't do anything weird with your retraction arm. Just come in like this and just naturally go with your retraction arm. So don't do something like this, just go and go. This one goes down the center, and the feeling is pushing with the edge of your hand forward. Okay, the name is Kata shutdown, but vertical knife hand block. But the feeling is that somebody's punching, you're slicing inside the punch. It goes off the side of your arm, at the same time striking the opponent in the middle of the chest. Okay. So when you strike the opponent in the middle of the chest, and he's now at arm's length, he is very conveniently the correct distance to do that movement. So what people do with this double punch, usually they end up, a lot of people dog it by stretching their armpits out too much, okay, and or too much body motion, too much turning of the body. If you stretch your armpit out too far, this creates like a rubber band kind of, and you have to concentrate more on focusing down. So when we punch, teach our beginners how to punch. We're telling them, don't do this. Okay? No more. Squeeze down. Don't reach out too far. That said, there are two elements that make the fist go out a little farther. One is that the hip can turn a little bit. the hip does turn a little bit. So the fists aren't here, the same spot. One's a little ahead of the other. Okay. The other one is, and I don't remember which seminar I explained this before. The strongest position for a punch is not with the shoulder all the way back. If somebody hits you here with your shoulder all the way back, you'll go back. It's a little bit forward. A little bit forward. A little bit more squeeze with the front pectoral muscle than the lat muscles. Okay, when we pull back, we're a little more in the back. Instead of equal, we're a little more pulling with the back muscles than the front muscles. Okay? Alright, so we double punch. Then we go to this movement. Important thing, this is another one of those, it's like Leon showdown turns. So again, you have to get your feet to move very quickly from point A to B. And don't make a movement like that, which is what 95% of black belts do. They don't move in one motion, they move in two motion feeling. So you yourself, when you're training, have to get that down to one motion with the legs first. And then you figure out how to get the hands to keep up. Okay. Elements of this move, first the hands are open, like all the kata have been changed to this. In the old days they did it with the hands closed, but now nobody does it that way. Hands open, come to here. Important thing is look in the mirror. This one's no good, it must be right straight behind, which means you gotta open up a little bit. When you go like this, you're closing your shoulders, and then you open to make power in the Segeda, right? And the Jodan Uchiuke. Jodan Uchiuke is obviously this could be simultaneous attack, some front kick coming, and somebody punching from behind, face punch. But you can also construe this Uchiuke Jodan to just be a setup for the next movement, which is this signature movement of the kata. This is a very difficult movement, the next one. Let me go this way. From here, so the elements are, work from the ground up again. Again, if you want to be not this kind of timing, you have to practice any movement in any kata. Practice getting your foot to go as fast as you can from one point to the other. And then tell yourself everything else has to catch up. My arms have to move that fast as my feet can move. And it should be okay. The feet have the longest way to go. They're taking the longest route. They're the ones that are going slow with most people's movements. So, second point, the elbow can't come out outside the center line. It goes over the middle of the head, over the head, close to the elbow, staying close to the center line. And it almost doesn't change position, my elbow. It's at a right angle here. It goes over my head and comes a little bit out, a little bit more than a right angle here. But don't straighten it up here. You just want to move from bent to here. Just go. That said, to do it properly and make the hip, as I always say, the hip must snap at the end, but so does your upper body. So the way this is supposed to be executed, and probably nobody does it correctly unless they do it slow, is as you cross, you got to hold your back arm way back there. Okay? And your hip, when you make this cross, isn't quite closed. It's a little bit open still. And then, now everything's pulled back. And then you release everything at the last moment. That's the way the movement is taught in slow motion. So you've got to get yourself kind of, this is the feeling of a bow and arrow or slingshot. When we take our slingshot, pull it all the way back, we want to let go of it, pulled all the way back. Bam! So you have to screw around with that to see when that is, because it's really not, you can't hold it back too far, too long, or else your arms won't go as fast as your legs. I didn't mention that this is true of any kata movement. If you're coming from a position where your arms are above your head, rising block, this is Jodan Uchiuke, it's hard to make the next move without, this kind of is like trying to trick you into bringing your shoulders up. Because if your shoulders tighten, they're going to rise a little bit, but if your arms up and your shoulders tighten, they're going to rise even more. And of course, if your shoulder rises as you're trying to do the next move, you can't go forward quickly. So the shoulder has to stay really relaxed, despite the fact that your arm's up in the air, this right arm in this case. A familiar sequence that we have in many katas, but they make it more difficult. Because instead of coming off this side, we come around from the front leg to make this one. Okay, that's more difficult, making a complete turn. So it seems like Sochin was invented to punish you, to be very tough. So when you watch somebody do from here, and they're going to do this kick, watch the back foot. If it moves or heel comes up, they don't quite have that movement down. The back foot, like any kata, must stay on the floor, the heel on the floor, pivot in the middle of the foot, in this case. And then the movement becomes like all the other kata. Okay? Keage, Moashi Empi or Mai Empi. But instead of front stance, we make Sochin stance. I will reiterate that all these kicks in this kata are defensive kicks, and they're all short. You cannot bend the body at all when you make these kicks. So what I said for the last kata was set yourself up to make a powerful elbow strike. Don't worry about making a spectacular kick. So if you're old, like me, you don't have to kick so high. This one should be Jordan. So you can stay on this, so one, stay down, and two, you don't lean away from the elbow strike. Then second point, make sure elbow strike comes off your hip, not around. You must use the hip to make power. The hip comes from, doesn't close quite as much as front stance does, but it's coming from this position to this position. Okay? So it's got plenty of hip ability to turn the hip to make power in the elbow strike. This is only using the shoulder muscles. Application the same as any of the other kata. The books always say you're simultaneously hitting to the temple and to the ribs. But the Bunkais always demonstrated that this is a block to a face punch, and a little longer kick to the ribs or armpit. Then grab the opponent, drag him forward, and strike to solar plexus or ribs with the elbow strike. Okay. So there's two of these. Then we have a familiar sequence that's in Heian Shodan, but it's backwards too. So again, start from here. Again, they make a big full turn to make this. Instead of coming off this way, we're coming all the way around. So the important thing here is Your back knee is bent. You got to keep that bend and pivot on the heel. And the integrity of that leg has to be great to make that turn fast. Okay, so now we have 6 knife hand blocks. And the timing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just shortly reiterating what I said about doing correct knife hand block before, was make sure that your hip snaps with the downswing of the arm at the last minute, so that your hip is close, 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 open. Make sure that the block the elbow isn't up as you ready yourself for the block, but down to your chest. Fingers are pointed to the sky at a 90 degree or 45 degree angle. And then this is close to your body, stays close to your body. So this angle in the arm, in the elbow, never changes through the course of this block. And of course, make your feet move fast and make your hands whip into the block. Never stop. Never stop. This kind of feel. So, now we're here. Next, it's called the Yoko Nooki. The palm is upward. This is Osayuke, pushing down block. Same application as this move in Hannidan. Okay, pushing the punch down, striking at the same time. The stance must not shorten, even though a lot of people do that. That's not correct. This Yoriashi stance stays the same depth and the same length. Okay. This position, so if we attack Churan, the rib cage makes a V downward like this, and we want to have our hand in this position, because if we turn it to horizontal, Yoko Nooki, our fingers will catch on the ribs as we're trying to go into solar plexus with the middle fingers. The outside fingers will catch on the ribs. So you want to go between, right in the middle of that slot. But up here, and this target is this soft spot above your collarbone. The collarbone is more flat. So if you come in straight with the tate, nukite, vertical, and hit the middle finger in that little hole on your neck, okay, your little finger at least will catch on the top of the collarbone and break. So this one's better for this position, same as this one, is better for the eyes. This one, because of the shape of the eye socket, because of the eye ridge, you want to go in this way, or this way. Okay? This way you catch the upper finger on the eyebrow, brow ridge. Okay, from here, we do Maegiri, front leg, Maegiri, back leg, and Kiai. So I don't forget, these moves from here to here to here to here are done as fast as you possibly can. Pa-pa-pa-pam. Okay, so when you watch people do them, very often they're taking some shortcuts in the techniques. So I'll talk about the shortcuts, but I'll talk about how you're supposed to do them, and then talk about the shortcuts that people take. These techniques, this one is a Zen 1 Hinari-uke, I'm sorry, Zen 1 Hinari-uke using the upper forearm, the forearm, and Hinari means twisting block to Jora, okay? This one is Urazuki, punching. Now neither one is quite is quite executed quite the way the name would imply. Normally, this twisting block would start with the palm down and come like this, and twist, so that the punch is coming here, you start here, and this twisting is what diverts the punch to the side. It's twisting of the forearm. So the outside edge, or the inside edge of the forearm, rotates outward, and that creates an acceleration at impact, okay? And creates an outward force. This block is kind of the opposite of Nagashi uke, sweeping to the side, whether you do it this way, this or open-handed. This is just doing the other side. So you're bringing the punch by you. You're not past you. You're not pushing out to the side like a uchi uke. Anyway, these are both. We kick and we go one. So this one means that you're punching, and you're blocking, and then again, punching and blocking. Okay? So you kick, you punch, you block, you punch, you block. Because one's here and the next one's here, properly done, these wrists shouldn't be twisting. If you're coming off one and the next one is a mirror image of it. So, most important thing, talk about what people do instead later, but most important thing is get in front of a mirror and stand there and watch this one has to come in here so that your wrist is face level, then it comes to here. The elbow and the fist are on a horizontal track. In neither case can they deviate from up and down nor side to side. They're running on a track. Okay, some people go like this. That's completely wrong. Now you're making Urazuki into back fist strike. Most people cheat a little on the first one because the first one's a bomb, and then you ki. The first one, they cheat a little. They cheat in two ways. One, they bring this supposed to be in Ariuke, they bring this a little bit sideways so they can twist to make the punch. So they bring this one a little sideways to get that twisting action. Helps to make focus. And the other thing people do is the first one they exaggerate. They bring this one out farther than it's supposed to be, and they bring this one back in farther than it's supposed to be, so they can make this last one, which you can't cheat on, because the judges will all see if you're off where you're supposed to be. Next one. I can't do this movement. This is Mikazuki Geri, round pressing kick. The application is blocking a Joran punch. So your hand's supposed to come to here. And then your foot has to come that high, pum-pum, and then you come down quick. Some people, I'm not even going to say some people, I'm going to say most people, are people, go like this. Well, if it's face block, stomach punching to face block, that's not where you're going to be blocking. This is where you're going to be blocking. Here. Okay? So you can't stick your hand out there, it doesn't make any sense. If you block him with his fist over there, he never intended it hitting you anyway, he's not getting close enough. So we come to here, application is the same, except that you block to face, then you fielded whatever techniques he came in next. Next, Uchiuke and lunge punch, Waisuki. All of a sudden we're doing pretty basic stuff, but make sure that you're paying attention to making it real. So people are doing stuff like this. And that's not how you're supposed to move. So get your legs first to understand that there is no slow fast, that this foot has to come in an arc to here very rapidly. And Uchi-uke has to come against your body and come to here as fast as it can. Okay? So make sure that you're getting there quickly. Okay? Then check your back foot. Is it parallel to the front? Okay? Because people start falling apart in this part of the kata, getting tired or something. Same lunge punch. Same. Okay, we're in a weird stance now. So don't slow down your stepping. Get your step to go really fast. Same step, really fast. So the feet are the most important thing. Teach your feet how to do it first. Then get your hands to go that fast. And go. 2 uchi-ukes. 1, 2. Important thing here is if you're tired and you're trying to make it strong, don't make an outside course against the body. Concentrate on your stance, going down. And this one is just doing this. Don't do the shoulder action. Just whip your arms. Think about what the stance is doing, and you'll be okay. But people are constantly taking a long course. So if I'm here, and I'm going to step here for uchi-uke, they'll come in tight, they'll come in with their elbows straight, stiffly. But this elbow's got to quickly relax to come to here. Next one. This one, again, any of these kicks, it must be a short kick. The meaning is, you block, the opponent grabbed your wrist, or you grab his wrist, or he grabbed your wrist and you grab his wrist, and bam! He's right next to you. So don't do this. Just kick and keep your weight well on the front leg, which is the key to being able to control this action. Okay? So the weight is on the front leg. Then you can put this down slowly. Okay? And I've said this in a lot of the other kata. Any of these slow movements, the important thing, if you can do them so that your foot is traveling all the time to the end of the block, it's just continuously moving, and then settles into the stance, that's wonderful. But most people, especially a stance like this where your weight's forward, you won't be able to do that completely. So your weight has to stay back, but what you got important thing is that your weight transfers and finishes transfer with the block finishing. So, and of course, dunk and the arm still moving it is not good. Okay, the stance cannot finish. The stance, whatever you're doing, the stance cannot finish and the arm still be moving. Your weight has to be still moving as you're moving the arm. It doesn't matter what stance it is. If you're doing slow motion, you want to show that control. So we come to here, short kick, we pull it back, we punch the opponent. This is the same as Joan. These punches are both supposed to be chewed on. Nobody punches down here, everybody's shoulder level or slightly below it. Then 2 punches. Make sure that these last 2 punches especially, don't rush them. They have to be very, very, very powerful. Make sure that one's strong, then make this one strong. And kiai. And exam point for the kata is watch my back knee. If that back knee is flopping around, it's no different than this moving hand knee. If the knee's flopping around, down goes this cord. Okay. Okay, then that wraps up our Kata seminar for this week. And next Friday at 6 we'll do another one, and I will let people know when I know what that Kata is. So, sayonara.